When you open Outlook 2010, you'll see right away that there are some pretty big changes. The first really noticeable change is this bar at the top of the Outlook window, called the ribbon. The ribbon keeps the commands and buttons that I need close at hand. To hide everything on the ribbon except the names of the tabs, I can click this little button here. But most of the time, I find it useful to have the ribbon available, so I'll click the button again. Another big change is that Outlook 2010 offers a greatly enhanced version of the conversation view that was available in previous releases. Using this powerful new arrangement, I can easily keep track of who has received each message in a conversation, which message each message replies to, and which message in each branch of the conversation is the most recent one. Just as importantly, Date Conversations arrangement makes it possible for me to act conversationally. That is, to act on all of the messages in a conversation at once, instead of having to deal with each of them individually. We'll talk more about all of that a little later in this course. To switch to Conversations arrangement, first click the View tab, then in the Arrangement group, make sure that Date or Date Conversations is selected, whichever one shows up. Finally, here in the Conversations group, make sure that Show as Conversations has a check mark. When you turn this Show as Conversations setting either on or off, you'll see this little dialog box, which gives you the choice of turning the arrangement on or off either in the current folder only, or in all of your Outlook folders. Myself, I pretty much use Conversations everywhere, so I'll indicate that here. You may wonder what I mean by conversations. A conversation is an original message, along with all of the replies to that original message, as well as all of the replies to those replies. In simple chronological date arrangement, every one of those messages and replies shows up individually in my inbox, scattered among all the other unrelated messages and conversations. That's a lot of duplication, and a lot of visual clutter. In Date Conversations arrangement, all of the messages and responses in each conversation are grouped together, and each conversation is listed only once, arranged by the time of its most recent message or reply. Let's look at an example. By the way, I know that I'm looking at a multi-message conversation if when I click it, I see this little triangle. Clicking the conversation shows me, in the reading pane, the content of the most recent message in that conversation. To see the listings for all of the messages in the conversation, I just click the little triangle. One of the great things about this arrangement is that all of the messages in the conversation are listed here, even the ones I've already moved out of my inbox, and even the ones I myself have sent. If I haven't yet deleted it, it's listed here, no matter which folder it's actually in. One more click tucks the messages away from view again, thus quickly reducing the visual clutter in my inbox. And any time I want to see all of my messages listed individually, I can use the options here on the View tab to switch immediately from one arrangement to another. I just click the Arrange By button in the Arrangement group, and then choose the view that I want. For example, I can easily sort the list by who each message is from, or use any of the other options here. However, though it took a little getting used to, I'm finding Date Conversations really useful, so for now, I'm going to stay in that arrangement. Different people work best with differing screen layouts. Still on the View tab of the ribbon, the buttons here in the Layout group allow me to arrange the Outlook workspace in the way that works best for me. From here, I can control both whether and how Outlook displays the navigation pane, the reading pane, and the to-do bar. Each of these buttons opens a list of options. For example, if I prefer not to display my favorites list in the navigation pane, I can hide it by clicking this check mark to clear it. To minimize or maximize the navigation pane and the to-do bar, I can use these little menus. I can also use these arrows. And way down here in the corner, you'll find this tiny pair of very useful buttons, Normal and Reading. Click Reading, and Outlook maximizes the reading pane and gets just about everything else out of your way. To go back to the normal view, you've already figured this out, haven't you? Just click Normal. As you switch between the various major functions of Outlook, you'll notice that each function has its own version of the ribbon. The Calendar version of the ribbon has commands appropriate for working in your calendar. The Contacts version has commands appropriate for creating and working with your contacts, and so on. Now, let me show you another handy place to get commands and controls. In fact, just about the best place of all to keep the commands and controls that you use the very most. It's this little toolbar above the ribbon, called the Quick Access toolbar. The best thing about this toolbar is that what's on it is entirely up to you. You can add your favorite commands to it with just a couple of clicks. I do want to point out that each Quick Access toolbar has a few default buttons already there for you. One of these is the Send/Receive button. Finally, if you like to use keyboard shortcuts, you're probably curious about how they work in Outlook 2010. The ribbon design comes with a new kind of keyboard shortcuts, called Key Tips. The new style gives me a big advantage over all previous setups. There is now a shortcut for every single button on each ribbon. Key tips are provided for all ribbon tabs, for each command on each tab, for the Quick Access toolbar, and for the File tab. Key tips are also pretty simple to use. To display key tips, I press the Alt key. Then, I press the key for the ribbon tab where the button or command I want is located. I'll press F for the File tab, which we'll be talking about a good deal later in the course. Then, I just press the key for the button or command I want. For example, to open the Outlook Options dialog box, I press T. And that's all there is to it. Because of this new use of the Alt key, a few of the less widely used Alt+ shortcuts have been replaced by key tips, but many Alt+ shortcuts still work in Outlook 2010. And a majority of existing shortcuts that use the Control key have also not changed. You'll find a link to a list of keyboard shortcuts in the quick reference card at the end of the course. Next up, creating and sending messages in Outlook 2010.